Join us for an enlightening experience where you will gain a deeper understanding of the purpose and essence of opening your eyes. This is your chance to enhance self-awareness and personal growth with a shift in perception that provides a fresh outlook on life. Embrace the journey from consciousness to superconsciousness. Coming live by Barrett Kunyan.
Here we are. We'd like to take the opportunity to say hi. Colin Joe from South Africa. It's always a pleasure, brother, to have you on our show. It's Colin has been my mentor, and we continue connecting all the time. He's got a lot to say about, particularly today, the subject on the concept of holisms. So I'm really excited to go into depth with you on this subject area, because we've got new listeners coming in all the time. I'll hand the mic to you in a second, and then you can just give a brief background about your journey and how things started for you. I know that you were born in South Africa in 1950, and you've done some major grid work on with energy ley lines all over the earth, and also you're a teacher on various subjects. And if I can take the opportunity to talk about, you've done a series of ebooks. If I can name the 3 that you've done, the first one is called Soul Evolution. Number 2, we've got here Forgotten Human Potential, and the third one being the Multi-Dimensional Universe. So here we are, and we're going to talk very shortly about holisms. And once you've done your intro, brother, if I could bring a 1-minute video as well about the bioactivation platform, what the core is about, and we'll take it from there. And welcome.
Yeah, thank you. It's a great honor to be with you and all your viewers. My name is Colin Joe Byrne. I was born in South Africa in 1950. I lived pretty much an ordinary life, that everyone else lives, until I was the age of 53. And then through various situations, I was introduced to higher dimensional beings, and they, over a period of time, over a period of 3 years, they taught me a lot about the structure of the universe, the nature of reality, what is the soul, what is the structure of the soul, what is the soul, wave and light waves, and how they work in the universe, and how they create everything, and everything is based on vibration, frequency, and energy. And so, yeah, a lot of stuff that I teach could be considered like really out of this world. And it is literally out of this world, but it also affects our reality here. People have a certain perception of life and reality here that is devoid of connection with all things, and that's what we're going to be talking about today: holisms and what they are.
Great, that's great. For that, we're getting a bit of this background noises, but I don't know why that's happening. But we can live with that. Maybe we can fine tune that. Yeah. That's great, brother. So I'll just put the bioactivation video so people can understand what this platform is about as well, and then we'll come back to the concept of holisms, and then we'll dive in. So here goes.
Bioactivator helps humanity investigate the purpose of our soul evolution by connecting to the biological computer, embracing organic Wi-Fi, which is cosmic energy, in helping humanity remove itself from the hamster wheel mentality, which is fear-based energy, through these fundamental questions. What, where, when, how, who, and why we and all life exist. If you struggle to answer these questions, then you are still on the hamster wheel. Bioactivator does not attempt to heal anybody, but creates harmony and neutrality at its core, with the purpose of do no harm, cause no loss, and do not impose upon the freedom of others, and to help simplify life through natural law.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to put that out there as well. So coming back to the concept of holism, I mean, my understanding of the word holism, it's derived from the word hollow, right? So that you're not quite wholesome in how you're interpreting the energies, vibration, everything which is around us. You're not getting the clear picture as to what in reality, because there could be multiple realities happening at the same time. So with respect to being in the one moment, in that time where you become wholesome and you understand. I mean, do you want to describe a little bit more in terms of how people can become more conscious, aware of their hologram, and bringing with this phenomenal question of the purpose of our soul evolution. If you can't answer some of these very deep rooted questions, it's hard to get off this hamster wheel mentality. So, Colin, take it away, brother. Give us some powerful nectar as far as what we can do to raise our game, our vibration, so that we become more conscious about how this hologram and actually works, the mechanics and stuff.
Thank you. Yes, I'm smiling because the concept of holograms, of holisms, is going to be something really difficult for people to wrap their heads around. So I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible for people to understand it. Because in a sense, we are indoctrinated with a consciousness of separation. So and it all revolves around the individual. And the notion that we are individuals living a life in a limited span of life, in a system that manages us and manipulates us into different states of consciousness and states of being. They manipulate us into different states of poverty and abundance. They manipulate us into limited understanding of art and music, entertainment, sport. So there is a very thorough system of manipulation, control, and indoctrination here. And my higher selves, when I first became aware of this, when they explained it to me, I went into a very deep and dark depression where I cried for about 3 months, and I was seriously depressed, and I couldn't forgive myself for being part of that system. And and participating in it. But later on, I was able to come to terms with that, forgive myself, and that opened me up to gaining certain information that they were giving me and learning to accept it and learning to integrate it into my everyday life. And as I began to practice what they were teaching me, my life changed dramatically. And part of that was understanding of holisms. And holisms come from the word hollow, as you say, it's a Greek word which means whole. So a holism is a whole. And understanding the nature of the whole enables you to understand the nature of the parts. Because everything we see around us is a part of a whole. And when the sum of the parts work cohesively and coherently together, they become, the sum of the parts become greater than the whole. So that's the way one is able to raise one's consciousness when you integrate all the parts together, and that the sum of the parts then become greater than the whole, and then you lift your consciousness into a higher level of understanding of reality and, in fact, creation. Now, a simple way to understand this, and I'm going to give people a secret to understanding holograms and holisms, is this. If you look at your finger, it's the first digit on your hand, your often called your pinky or your little finger. That little finger is part of a holism. It has flesh, it has blood, it has a thing called a nail, which is basically calcium, calcified matter. And this little finger becomes a part of a greater whole, which is the hand. Now, the little finger can't operate on its own. It is dependent on the hand. But the hand itself is a holism. It's got 5 fingers. It's got a whole panoply of identity. You've got your thumb, your forefinger, middle finger, ring finger, and your little finger. And all of these are different, but they form a whole. And when they work together, they can do incredible things, like play music, they can write, they can type, they can create art, they can maneuver objects around. This is a great, great illustration of what a holism is. But that hand is connected to the arm, the forearm, and then the upper arm. And that upper arm is connected to the shoulder. And the shoulder is connected to the ribs, the rib cage. And above the shoulder, you have the head. And below that, you have the torso. And all the parts of the torso are a hologram. So the individuated parts of the whole. Now, here's the thing that causes people consternation, is how do they all fit together? And the secret is this. It's all in our DNA. That in your little finger, you have enough information there that if this information was decoded and written into books, the books, you'd have enough books to reach from planet Earth to the moon. That's how much information is contained in your little finger. In other words, each part of the whole holds all the information of all the other parts. And that's how they work together, when they realize that each part of the whole contributes and is part of the whole. and it has different functions, it has different identities, it has different purposes, it has different expressions, and that's what we are. We are part of a whole, and we individuated expressions of the whole, but we cannot be separated from the whole. If you separate the fingers from the hand becomes useless. And that's basically the state of consciousness of humans. They have separated themselves from the whole. They see themselves as individuals, and they're not able to relate to others as being a part of them. But I'll explain that a little further as we get into this. Now, if we understand the nature of that principle, that each part of the hand is part of the whole, and each part of the hand is important to the function of the whole, but that within each tiny part of the hand, there is information about everything else in the hand, everything else in the arm, everything else in the shoulder, everything else in the brain, the heart, the lungs, the stomachs, the legs. We are an expression, a whole expression. And it has to do with the fractal nature of the universe. There is a universal creation and design template. In other words, a pattern. It's like an architect when he builds a home, he draws the home and that becomes the template, and then the builder follows that template and he can build the home. Likewise, in the universe, there's a creation and design template. And this template expresses the wholeness of everything. It's like you ask, how big is the universe? Well, the universe is a whole, but it is also a fractal whole, in that each part of the universe contains all the information about the rest of the whole. Now, mankind has separated themselves from this knowledge through indoctrination. We live thoroughly carnal and temporal lives, in that we accept the teachings that we are given to us when we are brought up here. Our education systems on this planet are not education systems, they are indoctrination systems. They teach you about the system and how you fit into that system, how you serve that system, and how that system will reward you or punish you. You get rewarded if you obey, you get punished if you disobey. So if you have a different point of view from the system, you are ousted from the system and you're punished and you're separated from the system. Now, many people like myself have separated themselves from the system and we participate in the system, but we participate in an engaged way, but detached way. That I can see objectively what is going on, but it doesn't disturb me or doesn't horrify me. It did at first, but now I can see it for what it is. It is just people who are brainwashed, zombies. They've been hypnotized, and they've been hypnotized to only see what they see. Now, what they're seeing is what they are creating. That is the nature of a hologram. Now, a hologram is created through using lights and mirrors. In other words, it creates matter and antimatter, and these are combined into holographic paper, and it creates a picture, a three-dimensional picture of whatever's been photographed. Now, here's the kicker for people to understand, is that when you take that holographic picture on holographic film, and you cut that picture in half, both halves will hold the information of the whole picture. In other words, you'll have two pictures of the same thing. And if you cut that in half, you again get two pictures of the whole thing. Now, what is that saying? It's saying that in a hologram, a whole picture, that every part of the picture holds all the information of that picture. So the picture is a hologram, but when you divide it into two, it then creates the same picture. And so that teaches us that in a hologram, everything in the hologram holds all the information of the whole. Now, what is coming on this planet, I've been told, is that beings are going to begin to remember. And remember is to become back, to remember yourself, to reconnect yourself to your history, your biology, the nature of the universe, to your soul families, to the nature of the hologram in which we experience our reality. Now, people often say, well, if I'm creating my reality, if I see what I see, how did I create that if I don't have the information? Like when I'm born, I don't have the information about plants and pictures and cots and blankets and baby bottles. How do I create that picture? Well, here's another secret, that within your soul, you hold all the information of all your prior lifetimes. And your prior lifetimes start out with you being a microbial form. And we evolved our souls into a higher form. That's part of the soul evolutionary journey. So the tree that we're seeing out there is a tree that we have been ourselves. Therefore, we have that instruction, we have the programming for that tree within our soul bodies. They're called soul codes. Now, in our physical bodies, we have two types of DNA. People really just generally focus on the first type, which is genetic DNA. Now, genetic DNA holds all the history of our family, Earth family connections. But our junk DNA, which is, genetic DNA is about 10% of our DNA. The 90% of our DNA is junk DNA. And the junk DNA it holds all the history of our prior lifetimes. And in our soul bodies, we have soul codes, and our soul codes relate to our DNA. So we are connected through waves of energy. The soul body is an energy body. It's like we are cell phones, and we're receiving information all the time from this body of energy around us. People say, no, well, I can't see that energy. I have no understanding of how it works. Well, how does a cell phone work? A smartphone. It receives information from somewhere else, and then it creates, you can even have a moving picture or a picture on your cell phone or something that is in some distance. So that's information at a distance. Our soul bodies are huge. They energy forms packed with information. Like I said, your little finger has enough DNA in it, if it was decoded, would contain enough information to fill books from here to the moon. And likewise, our souls also hold that information of all our prior lifetimes, not only on Earth, but in other dimensions as well. we have all had many, many experiences that we carry and hold within our soul bodies, in our soul codes. And the soul code structure is I in my courses I teach about the structure of the soul, and when I deal with soul codes, I teach about there is the God code. The God code is basically the central code which holds the template of the universal and design and creation template. And that template is what all reality is based. So people say to me, so if life is a hologram, how do we create it? Which I've explained. And then they ask me, well, how can we change the hologram that we're experiencing? Well, changing the hologram requires changing yourself. And people tend to have this idea that they are victims of their circumstances. And people have to get out of that thinking they are not victims, they are victimizing themselves by following the dictates of their, excuse me, of their indoctrination. And I tell a story that I read in a book called The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot. And in it, he explains how his uncle invited him to a party one evening. And at the party, there was a hypnotist. And at some stage in the evening, the hypnotist did his usual hypnotic tricks, hypnotizing. He looked around and saw who was susceptible to hypnotism, and he hypnotized them, and he got them to do silly things, and that everyone laughed and joked. But then he did something quite amazing. He hypnotized a man who had a daughter there. And he said to the man, when you wake up, you won't be able to see your daughter. And so the hypnotist hypnotized this man and then brought him out. And though his daughter was standing right next to him, he couldn't see his daughter. So he could only see what he'd been programmed to see. And when his programming told him that what was there wasn't there, he couldn't see it. And then the hypnotist said to another man, noticed he had a watch, and he said, look, I want you to put that watch behind the back of the daughter. And then he asked the subject who was hypnotized, can you see the watch? And even though it would be impossible to see the watch through the body of another person, the man was able to tell the time on the watch. And he was able to describe the watch. Now that's quite miraculous, but how does that work? That works because humans are hypnotized to see what they want to see, what they've been taught to see. They can't see the whole. And the whole is a 360-degree perspective on reality. And when we look out in our world, we only see a very 180-degree portion of reality. We don't actually see what's behind us. Although at this moment I can see what's behind me through my camera. But that's an interesting point too.
Yeah,
that if we choose to have a wider perspective on life, a whole perspective on life, we can see what is there and interact with it and be creative in expressing ourselves and changing our hologram. And I can see this happening on a very big scale on this planet, where people are beginning to see they're dropping their cognitive dissonance and they're actually beginning to see things that they never saw before. You can see it quite clearly in the United States, where the Republicans are actually beginning to see what's really there, and the Democrats are only seeing what they've been taught to see. And that's a sign of people who've been hypnotized.
So thank you for that. So what's causing the change, brother? The fact that they're asking questions now, deeper questions, because things are altering, aren't they? Is it the frequency that's altering so that people are beginning to remember?
Yeah. Essentially, in the soul, okay, is a body of energy made up of electric and magnetic fields. Now, electric is light, and light carries information. Magnetic is sound, and sound carries information. Or relates to, now, electric relates to thoughts and it relates to the mind, whereas sound relates to the heart, the emotional body. So we are in this field where we have thoughts and emotions. And what's been happening on this planet, people are being told what their emotions should be and what emotions they should attach to. And their thoughts are directed through manipulation, through indoctrination, the mainstream media, the whole narrative that carries on here, that this is reality, But the difference is the standards and values that are being attached to that information. Now, when one raises one's standards and values and reaches up for a higher moral and ethical compass and standard, you raise the frequency of light in your soul body. But as in everything on this, as part of the notion of holisms, is this notion of symbiosis, that the one teaches the other one. Like your little finger has a symbiotic relationship with your hand. Your little finger is dependent on the hand, but the hand is dependent on the little finger to do its function. So we have a symbiotic relationship with the universe. And as we raise our frequencies, so the frequencies coming in from the galactic plane will bring information through light. Now, people say, now, how does light carry information? Well, it's again, people are cognitively dissonant. They don't understand that people have fiber optic cables. What are fiber optic cables? It's information being pushed through light in the optic cable. Light carries information. The sun it shines every day. What does it do? It brings the information. It is our connection to the whole universe, and it provides information. It informs plants, animals, fish, birds, the microbials, the insects. They all require light, and light is information, and that information comes from the sun, and the sun gets its information from the galaxy, and the galaxy gets its information from the universe. So it's all this one big whole of which we are an individuated part, like the little pinky in the hand. We have a function to play, but when we work together with the hand, we become much more functional. We become much more integrated into the rest of the body. And the universe, in a sense, is a body, is like our bodies. Our bodies are a fractal of the universe. We have the same design and creation template. So if you look at the universe, you say, wow, you've got all those stars and galaxies and all that out there. If you went into your body at a nano level, you would have stars, planets. If you take an atom, for instance, that has a nucleus and then a proton and electron, and the relative distances between the protons and the electrons are exactly the same as the stars and the sun. They have that relative distance. So even within our bodies, we've got these things called atoms, molecules, cells, and each one is a fractal, a type of something that already exists in the universe. And as we begin to recognize that and understand that, what is the connection between us in say, I'm a Caucasian? What is the connection between me, a Caucasian, and the others out there who are of, say, the black races? What is the connection? We don't know the connection, but I know the connection between us, because when they seeded this planet 243,000 years ago, they brought the different race groups here. They brought the white, the black, the red, the yellow, and white, red, black, yellow, and brown people. And all of that, they called those colors because colors are frequencies. And those people you emit and emote on those frequency levels. And those different race groups are meant to be part of one whole unified field of humanity, each having different expressions, each having different individuated languages, cultures, religions, belief systems, ages. They're different, but they're all part of the whole. And when we begin to have respect for each other, we begin to respect others of difference, and we can respect them because we can recognize them as a different part of the whole. Now, there are many words that derive their root from the word hologram, or hollow, sorry, and there's holism, which I'm talking about. There's holistic, there's holy, there's holiness, there's holiday. All these words are connected into this one word, holo. But we've failed to recognize that everything is one big hologram, and that we can change our hologram, the whole, by respecting and working together with the rest of the whole, so that the sum of the parts becomes greater than the whole, and that lifts us into a higher plane of consciousness. It's when we have that symbiotic responsibility to respond to the universe, that the universe responds in kind. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So the universe allows us to participate in this wonderful creation process in a hologram. Now, holograms are not evil things. People say, oh, this world is a hologram, so therefore the hologram is evil. It's not true. Holograms are all over the universe. When I say all over, they have different expressions in different functions, in different dimensions, in different time-space continuum. But they're all based on the same thing, of the nature of the whole. And a hologram is just the way the universe works in order to give us an experience, allows us to give ourselves experiences in order to raise our vibration and go into a higher level of consciousness that is part of the soul evolutionary journey. You see, so holograms of themselves are a blessing if we understand that we ourselves create the hologram. And the hologram we're creating at the moment is not the hologram which we wish to create. It's a hologram in which we are being indoctrinated to create. we are participating in creating a reality that we don't want. In other words, we are our own prison warders. It's because we are, the mind is captured in false information and false teachings.
So that opposing polarity is quite an important role, because that's raising the frequency because of
Yeah,
the symbiotic relationship that you I'm referring to that, and to stay anchored, and just because the drama out there, the temptation is there to be pulled in each time. If you're following the television and the media and stuff like that, it's
yeah.
like a magnet that pulls you in. So what, I know that the energies are changing in as far as, because I can see the behavior, the patterns of humanity. It is getting a lot better and a lot healthier, and people are becoming more conscious, aware of the footprints that they're leaving, because that's leaving powerful markers, impressions. So and the more conscious you become, what you're leaving behind, that will help raise the frequency, because people are becoming more and more aware of the moral obligations, and what you refer to as the moral compass. So it's very, very powerful. Is there an end game? Is there an end date? Because I was interviewing a chap called from Newcastle. He was kind of mentioning the fact there is going to be an event next year close to Halloween period, but he's referring more to the earth changes rather than the human. I don't know.
Cosmic change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What can people do to prepare for that, to become conscious of, to become more conscious, and not to react to the stuff that's being sent out there, in terms of the powers that were trying to conditioning us further into a darker place? But do you feel that there's going to be some interesting earth changes as well, in terms of, because he's kind of talking about earthquakes as an example, for example? Do you feel that if humanity can raise its game, do you think that we can neutralize, harmonize such events? Or what's your download on that?
Yeah, there certainly will be that event, but it'll be preceded by a period of time that makes that event palatable, reachable. It will enable humanity. Humanity will be enabled. When I speak of humanity, I'm not talking about all people who appear to be human on this planet, because there are many people on this planet who are not human. But all humans who have the God seed activated within themselves, who have their well, I'm going to say it, but it's going to be hard for people to understand. For people to have their chakras open, they need to have to do exercises to the word I'm looking for, to activate the energy bodies. And there's a certain drive in the energy body that is able to do that. But we won't go into it now. But there are a lot of things that are happening to humans now that they are not consciously aware of, but they are unconsciously aware of. Now, in any learning experience, when you decide to, say, for instance, ride a bicycle, you first become consciously aware that you are unable to ride a bicycle. So you are consciously incompetent. And then when you decide you want to ride that bicycle, you then become, before you ride the bicycle, you're unconsciously incompetent. When you decide you'd like to ride the bicycle, you become consciously incompetent. Then you practice riding that bicycle and you begin to be consciously competent. And when you're riding a bicycle, you are unconsciously competent. So there's a learning process that humanity has to go through. And we are in the stage now where people are beginning to reach the stage of conscious incompetence. They're beginning to realize their incompetence in terms of their spiritual body, in terms of their spiritual lives, in terms of their inability to create the experiences that they wish to have. But this is a very big movement that's going to happen. And the end result of that movement is there will be a splitting of the earth, in that the energy soul body of earth is being prepared to move into a higher dimension, whereas the physical matter earth will continue to run. And those whose energies are raised to move with earth into a higher dimension will move with earth, and those who are not haven't raised their vibration will go along with physical matter earth. And I can tell you what's going to happen to physical matter earth, but it's going to be catastrophic. Let me just put it that way. So we are being prepared for that, and part of that, as you said, people talk about the event. They talk about a flash of light, a solar flash. What does light bring? It brings information, and that information will be carried into our soul energy bodies, where we will begin to remember. Because at the moment, people have just forgotten this information. All I'm teaching you is stuff that higher dimensional beings already know. But it's not an option for them. They know it. When you know something, you can't unknow it. They know this stuff. And humanity's got to get to the level where they begin to know, recognize, accept, and then surrender to that information and say, do I want to go that way, or do I want to go?
Because certainly the famous quote, "The truth will set you free," the understanding, the all-knowing, to understand the essence of what you're doing in this kind of reality, the sole purpose. So it's in terms of putting a timeline on this. I mean, in terms, like this individual was mentioning, his name is Rob, by the way. Rob was saying that he's forecasting. Can anybody specifically because he's kind of he's sticking his neck at the actual day. What you're now saying about the split, and so from my take, it's an exciting time to be alive. I think it's a celebration, the fact that now is the time to prepare in terms of the actual event, because do you feel that there'll be, in terms of percentages, do you feel, and nobody's going to die in the sense that people will drop their holograms, in terms of, and reproject somewhere else, but in terms of because there's a lovely lady, she kind of transitioned a little while back. Her name was Dolores Cannon, which I'm sure you've heard. She did a lot of past life. She was a regressionist, and she was saying that this particular dimension for the souls it's kind of like a university, where it's a graduation process. is that a nice analogy? Is that a comfort way of seeing things, in terms of not all souls will necessarily make it, but make it as in, for this event that you're now kind of putting like solar flash.
Yeah. I want to avoid making any forecasts, but we are in a cosmic cycle. Everything in the cosmos works in cycles. Like the Earth rotates around the sun every 365 years. The Earth rotates on its axis every 24 hours a day. The Earth is spiraling around the sun. The sun is spiraling around the galaxy. So this whole spiraling of events that happens in the cosmos, and we are in, according to what is called the cosmic clock, and the clock resets so that you have a starting point and an end point, and a starting point and an end point, like a clock. It goes around from 12 o'clock and then goes around the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 12 again, then goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the cosmos kind of works like that, and each rotation of the clock allows for beings to raise themselves into higher consciousness and to go into have other dimensional experiences. And it's an ongoing, forever process, an eternal process. The universe offers eternal life. It offers unlimited expression of creation and creativity. Which is quite different from here. So it's very difficult for us to get out of the consciousness of limitation and the consciousness of separation. So yes, the cosmic clock resets every 26,000 odd years. We are in 2012, we entered in the last cycle, if you like, last period of the cycle of the spiral, which is 33 years. It started in 2012 and it ends in 2045. And in that period, the galaxy is sending this information through the sun to Earth in order to assist conscious soul beings to raise their consciousness into a higher level of consciousness. Now, when each event happens is not determinable by the universe out there. It is we play a part in that. In other words, it's that symbiotic relationship we have with the universe. As more grace is given to us, so we must give more grace to the universe. And so we match, when we create a match of those energies, that's when the blast occurs, and then everything changes.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. I mean, I know from my own personal perspective is that I can change the vibration of something when I'm happy. When you're happy, you're in the union of the one, and you can affect every living organism on a very high note. And the consciousness is because you're aware. It's the awareness. You feel that it's all come into the one, and that's a wonderful way of raising the very fabric of what your perception is, and certainly the feedback that you get, because when you're giving grace and that you're happy, people can't, like your energy. I mean, I can only say from my perspective that I couldn't get enough of you, because you're a beautiful soul giving this incredible, vibrant, incredible information, so that people become more conscious, aware. So, and it enables people to become more aligned. So imagine, and I can almost say 100%, wherever you go and you're with that, you're in that union of the one, you're going to smile at people, you're going to touch people. I don't mean physically. So people will be captivated by your beautiful presence, and so for me, this run up to this event is a wonderful experience, because you're already conscious of it before the event. So
Yeah.
that's the game. So to be aware of what's going to come, and you can only do that if you remove the implants, because, like you said, we've been conditioned in such a way that we've been molded. But the symbiotic relationship is so paramount, so that you become very much balanced. So as the temptation is always there to say white's better than black, black's better than white, but to stay neutral, to stay kind and loving, and create that harmonious energy, so people feel safe in, they're in that safe zone. So that's when it, the toxicity that's within it will be released. So I thank you for this, because I thank the connection, because that's what we're primarily sending out there, and to become more whole, to become more unity connected, isn't it, with everything, really? Because you posted something not that long ago, I mean, about AI. I mean, they're not that powerful. I mean, it's like anything becomes powerful if you energize it. But the whole point was that God is the all-encompassing. So ultimately, that's where you want to be. But you can only be it if you can remove the synthetics and become more aligned with the organics. And that's why organic Wi-Fi, that's why, with your blessing and your beautiful presence, decided to create this bioactivation platform, is because this biological computer needs organic Wi-Fi, which is cosmic energy. And then that way you become more aligned, and you become not dependent, you become independent, because this body is a receiver. So you don't need to rely on governments or people alike to, because it's all secondhand for information. You want
Yeah.
firsthand.
Yeah. That's what it means to be holy.
Mm.
People tend to think of being holy as being without sin. Now, what is sin? Sin is separation consciousness. To become holy is to understand that one is connected to everything, to the microbiome. People don't understand how important the microbiome organisms are to life on this planet. They haven't made that connection, that we would not exist if it weren't for those little germs and microbiomes and bacteria that exist. Our bodies have like 8 billion cells in
It,
them,
it,
human cells, but we have far more non-human cells in our bodies, and those non-human cells are microbiomes. So we are so dependent on microbiomes. Plants are dependent on microbiomes. So I find it quite a nice paradox that the smallest things on this planet are, that the greatest things on this planet are dependent on the smallest. And that's what understanding holisms is, where there is no greater or lesser. That,
the,
if you want to reach for the stars, you've got to reach for the microbiomes first, consult with them, and they'll tell you how to get to the stars. Side perspective, my higher selves once reduced me to a nanoform and allowed me to traverse through my own body as a microbiome, and I saw different. It looked like you were out in looking at the stars. There were these flashes of light, and there's lights and different and things moving all around. People don't understand how beautiful their bodies are and what magnificent creations they are. But if they could understand the nature of holisms better, they would understand holistic healing better. And what is holistic healing? Holistic healing is looking at the whole and bringing the whole to bear upon a problem, a malignancy in the body, in order to heal the body. And we can only do that if we understand the nature of holisms, like bacteria. How important bacteria are in our bodies, and how do we manage our microbiome in our bodies? People don't do that. The most important health organ you have in your body is your stomach, because your stomach affects everything. The entire health of your body depends on your stomach. So if you look after your stomach, you're going to have healthy digestion, you're going to have healthy organs like the liver, the bladder, the gallbladder, the kidneys are all dependent on the health of the stomach. And the health of our blood is dependent on the health of the stomach. And the blood gets carried through to the bodies, to the brain, to the heart, through all our bodies. Our nervous system depends on the health of our stomach, because our nervous system has these little things that attach to each other and that pass sodium and potassium to each other. Where does that sodium and potassium come from? It comes from our stomach. Our entire health depends on our stomach. It's part of the wholeness of everything. And if we want to heal the world, we have to heal ourselves so that we become healthy. We become healthy participants in a healthy whole. It's no good sticking, creating.
We thank you for that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, if I may, we discussed one time about about DNA, because a vast percentage of our population that we were running on 2-strand, and our original within our template, if you will, it's 12 strands. So we're becoming, I hate to use the word upgrade, but it's getting. So when we get to the point of, let's say, number 4, number 5, we probably need to talk a lot less, because what my operating system is, what impressions are you leaving? Because my body's doing the talking. Why do we need to blah 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 so much? Because in terms of what vibration are you giving, what in terms of, like, when you're meeting a so-called stranger, what messages are you sending out there? Is it about manipulation? Is it about looking for weaknesses in the structure so that you can take advantage of their good nature? So this exchange for me, with the help of this, because I'm a guardian. I mean, it's the way I'm portraying everything from particularly January onwards this year, is I've moved into the guardianship of everything, because I'm saying I don't own anything. I look upon it as like the tools of the trade, a bit like this platform we're using. What is the purpose of this platform? What is it that we're sending out? Fundamentally, it's love. It's unconditional love, because the true currency is the highest, is that you don't need reward. There's no need, because when you're vibrating at a frequency where you're whole, you'll connect. What rewards are there? For my understanding, I say people, I don't do this on purpose to throw anyone in particular off balance, but I said to some people, I'm the richest person on the planet. And how do you define rich? The level of peace of mind that I possess, because they're the signatures that I'm leaving everywhere I go. And you're leaving these fundamental footprints. But you said something again very, very powerful in terms of, like, I mean, for me, like when you sit down to eat, and but again, it's about gratitude. It's about being mindful. It's about saying thank you. The process of how the makeup of everything came into the fruition of what is being laid down. So if you can't thank the experience, then you're not particularly evolving to a higher perspective. So my day always begins, thank you. And I always ask, it's like the Hawaiian meditation. It's very, very powerful. I do hurt people sometimes, not intentionally, because if you're also, if you're of a certain higher frequency, and you're not, I'm not saying that I'm careful sometimes, because people often condemn what they don't understand. So if you've suddenly gone into an arena where you're vibrating very, very high, people are very they get worried. They might be concerned. What's he on? Why is he behaving this way? So I'm going to stay as set, because I'm really excited. I don't know how many people, listeners out there, even if we, this gentleman called Rob, he's talking about an end date. This is, for me, the end of the manipulation. It's a time of rejoicing. It's a time of celebrating, because the ultimate is to know that why you exist, and what you're doing here. If you don't know that, then really you can't be a happy person. You can have all the money in the world, but if you can't understand these fundamental questions, what, where, when, how, who, and why we all life exists, then it's like the hamster wheel can also be, the saying goes, if you win the rat race, you're still a rat. The purpose is to come out of that box, and not necessarily. I know there's a lot of gurus out there, and what they do, they put you into a bigger box, and they can charge a lot of money for putting you into a bigger box, but it's still a box. The fundamental is, for me, enlightenment, the highest, is to know why you exist. And that's what our topic is about, being holy Moses. The all-encompassing.
It's not only to be aware that you exist, but to understand the power of your existence.
God, we're powerful.
The power to influence the hologram, the power to change the hologram. And as you begin to understand the nature of holisms, you can begin to understand what is the connection between the Earth's grid lines and the information exchange system on the planet. And what is the connection between the Earth's grid lines and the meridian lines in the body? So do you understand? What is the connection between the stars out there and us? Like, we are the stars because we create them by observation of them. So we are really the stars. That we are that powerful. We create stars. We create planets. We create plants. We create birds. We create it simply by observation of them, because it already exists within us.
Brother, this trinity of, like, what we're kind of doing right now, maybe our next little talk show podcast can be on visualization, imagination, because I do have a beautiful imagination what the platform will kind of look. Certainly that there won't be, like armies and wars and money and, all these divisions and flags, like there won't be like countries. There will be only one flag, which will be like Mother Earth, one, and that we won't need these incredible buildings like skyscrapers and aeroplanes and things like that, because we will be able to travel without having to move. My understanding is that we exist because in terms of, like, we exist on all different levels of consciousness. the
And that the
dimensions
consciousness,
or whatever. So we are it. And
that consciousness, that level of
has it ever
consciousness, just hold on, it draws into your consciousness the time and the space. So you don't go anywhere. It's what you draw into your consciousness that comes to you.
So I get it, because like the soul is still, the soul is not moving at all. The soul is using the projection of a body, and it's doing all the running around and all the movements, which is then uploading to the soul, which is, that's how the soul evolves, because it's getting feedback, and if you will, nourishment. Because imagine if you're in a play and you're conscious, fully conscious, how happy the soul will be, because you're in the union with the I am. So once you are in that union of I am presence, then you're going to activate every organism on the planet without having to blah 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 blah, because your footprint is energized. So you got, so I'm really excited. I mean, we could I'll just throw some seeds to your beautiful mind in terms of we could start visualizing what we want to see. We can put that.
It's important when I say that we create our hologram. We also create the people in our hologram. So when I meet people, I say, what is it within me that is causing me to see this person who is me, part of my consciousness, because I created them, and we have all these long-standing connections with many, many other beings and past lives, because the person that I'm seeing might be someone that I was in a past life. So I've recreated them.
What about these?
Just hold on. In order to heal that which is within me that needs to be healed. That's what that Hawaiian therapy is all about, the Ho'oponopono.
That's right, yeah. So basically,
within you to be ill.
Yeah. So once your meridians, everything is running, the energy is flowing beautifully, and nothing stagnated, and you've got a beautiful connection. You can see, I can see, I mean, from January of this year, I could start seeing how broken a lot of people are. And let me define broken. So when you look at yourself in the mirror, because I removed the mask completely. I'm comfortable not wearing a mask. Instead of the mask, I put a mirror, and people begin to see what's in them in terms of if there are any demons swimming. They'll see it, and so they could lash out on you first, so they can. And it's so important not to take it personally when people are lashing out, because when you do raise your game, people are going to find it a little bit odd. Like I was odd anyway, full stop. I didn't do like you, the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I mean, I did a bit of sex, but not so much of that. But I remember going to parties sometimes when I was young, and people would come up to me and say, "What are you on?" And they were like thinking I'm on something, and I'm like, I'm in mine. I'm enjoying being who I am. Thank you very much. I do not need to necessarily. I mean, I liked occasional drink, but I didn't need to get intoxicated to enjoy myself, or I didn't need to. Although I did smoke, but I smoked because I enjoyed the taste, the flavor. I wasn't doing it because. And the other thing is very, very powerful. If cigarette companies are doing it really well in terms of putting all these nasty pictures of what you could look. I mean, that's kind of making the matter a lot worse than it necessarily is. So if you're doing things positively, less likely are you going to cause harm. Although maybe there are certain formulas, important formulas, like because even with this platform, do no harm. See, I'm not into the veganism movement as such, because again, it's just a label. At the end of the day, do no harm is enough. Why do we have to say I'm vegetarian, I'm a fruitarian, I'm this, I'm that? What are we doing? We're creating more division. So I thought, well, what's the best way of stopping all that? Do no harm. And if someone is doing harm, what are you going to do? Are you going to lash out? So this aspect of forgiveness, I mean, what are we going to do? I mean, when we become more in tune with understanding the governments, how they were manipulating us, we haven't learned nothing if we're going to go out there and lash out on them because of that symbiotic thing. So we've got to be centered, we've got to be kind, we've got to be loving, and that's when they will stop it, because we'll be smart. With the fear-based energies, it's fear-based because they're making us traumatized, and they're getting us to be scared. So once that calms down by not giving our energies to this, and because that's why I say thank you, I love you, you know, I say it's fine, you know, because they've been traumatized, you know, it's very deep. The rabbit hole is very deep because they've been in a situation where it's been quite toxic. Because why would you want to harm anything in the highest form of being, in that natural order of who you really are? Why would you want to impose on anything? You know, it's about being kind and loving. And so, yeah. Sorry, I did go on a bit there, but that's the nature of who we really are. But I'm really excited, bro. I mean, you know, we. Sorry, did you finish your sentence? You were saying something.
No, when we realize that everything that we observe, we create, that all the people out there are us.
Is you.
And that person who wants to offend me is me offending myself. So I can forgive that person for being offensive because I forgive myself for bringing offense to my life. We have many what are called miasms. These are little what are they? They are distortions in our soul bodies, and that is one of the distortions we have to heal. Is that through our cognitive dissonance? Okay, we don't see what we see. When we see other people, we are seeing an expression of the whole, and I am a part of the whole. So what am I seeing? I'm seeing the whole. I'm seeing the other person of which I am a part. So how can I be offended by that person?
Exactly. Take the word truth at the moment. It's the way my perception of the word is. It's a living organism that's expanding as well. So it's not sitting somewhere dormant on a shelf accumulating dust. It is going through an evolution as well, and it's expanding all the time. So in an ideal world, when I get triggered a little bit, I see someone triggering me as a person that's highlighting what's not wholesome. So they're kind of saying, well, they're doing me a favor actually, because they're highlighting a part of me that needs more light, emphasis, looking at. So why would I lash out on someone who's doing me a favor? Well, because you're not aware. So, and for me, the word enlightenment is, if I'm on an uncharted territory and I meet somebody I've never met before, and that we connect, we lock eyes. What do I fundamentally see? Ultimately, I see myself.
Yeah.
And the word empathy kicks in, because how do you treat the outside world if you're evasive to the planet? It's because in reflection, what's going on within is being projected outwards. So in an ideal world, if you're kind, you're loving, and you care, and you do inside of you, you're going to give that frequency to everything that's around you. So it is very, very powerful. It's not rocket science, really, because everything has a biofeedback.
It's very simple. If you take two tuning forks and they are the same note, the same resonance, and you bang the one tuning fork and you hold it next to the other fork, the other one's going to start resonating as well, because the one is causing the other one to resonate, and that is what truth is. When the truth is within us, it causes the other people around us to start resonating at the same resonance.
Very, very.
It's not so much the words, but it's the energy that we represent.
Here's a word that I'm going to put about cymatics, for example. I mean, because like we've seen it with how holy water exists, because the way my understanding is, if you're creating something in an atmosphere where it's very beautiful, it's harmony and everything, and you're giving a beautiful tone to the water, and it can be anything really, but we're using water as an example. So you send beautiful, loving messages to the water, and then you consume it. It's going to have a harmonic, beautiful reaction, and you can do it with, you can magnetize, the way I understand it. You can practically, by saying kind, loving. You don't have to even say the words, because fundamentally, even if it's in your auric field, the fact that it comes in contact with you, it will do it. Even this podcast, for example, and any podcast that has its nucleus, do no harm and do not impose on the freedom of others, fundamentally is the core, and we are the guardians, and that's the way forward. Because when you go to higher planes, you don't have labels like I am this, I am that, and it's everything is a frequency. Like, you're not really called Colin, I believe, right? There's a unique frequency that is you. And do you want to add something to that? Or because you've had the opportunity where you've been escorted, and I suppose one of the reasons why you were escorted is because you were ready for it. You were the fact that you've done work before, and within your soul contract, it was a timely, divine time that you would, because there's a lot in terms of the your website. You've done a lot of writings there. You're putting out a lot of information, which the way I see you, like I said, you've been a phenomenal mentor for me for many, many years. And by the way, before I forget, Jeff Cloud says hello to you. He also put our podcast for this day out there as well, and his book is very powerful as well. Waking up in the dream, and I genuinely believe it is a remarkable book. And recently, I said to him, in terms of if something is priceless, don't even put. It'd be nice if you just take donations, ultimately, if you say that, if people can feel your frequency, your energy vibrate, and they know that, and I know you do this, and Jeff does it as well. Let me use Jeff as an example. He does so much for the dogs, and and he puts it out there, and he goes out there, and he's got such a huge heart to help animals, and so people are not stupid. They can feel the energy.
Yeah.
So, but even with the word money, for example, it's just a tool. But for me, I don't I've never really worshipped money. I respect the value of money, and it's important what you do. It's the attitude. It's like, it's not where you live, it's how you live. Correct?
Yeah.
So because you're energizing, you like I said, when you're setting yourself out there, what kind of markers are you leaving? Because if you're wholesome, uh, you don't have to impress. You don't have to go out there and show up in a certain. But it's funny how humanity is less fallible. But I remember I was one time wearing a Rolex watch. It happened to be from Thailand, so it's quite fake, but it looks pretty original. But when you're wearing a certain outfit, people look at you differently. They see the Rolex watch. They don't actually see your energy. Oh, he's wearing a Rolex watch, and they start calling you sir. And then but really, for me, the excitement is your markers, your frequency. What impression? What is your intention? These are fundamentally very, very important. If you are wholly connected to that one mind, the mind of God, then you're leaving markers without you talking too much. So this is a question. Do you feel that maybe this year, I mean, we're sort of like, we started October. Do you feel that more and more people are going to get telepathic then in the next couple of weeks, months? Do you think that the vast percentage of the population will become more psychic? Do you feel
Yeah.
that's coming on?
And it's happening. For instance, I have a friend who I sometimes meet with, and she's saying to me, I hear these voices in my head now.
Wow.
And I said, what are the voices telling you? And she tells me what the voices are telling her. And I just laugh, because that's what happens. You begin to hear the voices in your head.
Yeah.
Think,
Yeah.
in your dream state, when you're unconscious, when you sleep, you're unconscious. And a lot of the time, a lot of the information I got was, in the beginning, was while I was sleeping. And I think when we're conscious, we sometimes block out information that we should receive, but because of our indoctrination here, we block it out. We can't see it. We don't want to see it. It becomes anathema to us. Like the notion of, I create all the things around me. That's anathema to human consciousness. They can't figure that out. But what I'm trying to do is to make people aware of how it works. That is, in fact, it's true. We do create everything that we experience. And this whole thing of money is not, it's just a thing, but it's also a consciousness. When you have a consciousness of lack and a need for money, then you will do the things in order to give the money to attract that
That's
money into your consciousness. But when you understand that you are the value that gives money value,
Yeah. I mean,
then
if
you use that money wisely. You can direct it in a way that is beneficial for everyone and not just oneself.
well, that's very powerful, bro. Thank you for sharing that as well. Because when there's no competition, not value destroying, you're a value builder, because you're not separated, and
Yeah.
you're a contributor, and your operating system is abundance, not scarcity. What's there to compete with? The fact that you are enriching the lives of sentient beings. You're sending a very powerful vortex of energy without having the need to spell it all out. And where I sit, my mantra is, if it's important, thank you. If it's not important, thank you. So things can pass by you, and I thank it because it didn't stick on me. It wasn't them. So I look at things from the point of view that I'm having a soul connection. I mean, a lot of people, when they look at each other, they see the labels, they see the indoctrination aspect of who you are, what you are, and the superficiality, the synthetics, rather than seeing the organics. But when you remove the veil, what are you left with? When you become naked to the eye, you get a sense of belonging. Do you feel that you're part of something? You know, like, what is brotherhood? What is sisterhood? You know, for me, loneliness is a place where you feel alone because you feel the separation, you feel the cold, the fact that you're. But once you don't need, like, for example, in this new paradigm that we are in, you don't need to impress people by your performance in terms of you're trying to sell something. The ultimate is being. You are in that now present moment, because the victimhood thing for me is, when I reflect back, I'm very grateful for all the experiences that I've had, that even though they haven't been plain sailing, you know, I've hit a few walls, I've stumbled, but I think it because I'm in the present moment now, where I am so blessed that had I not gone through all the ups and downs, I wouldn't be where I am at now. So I don't need future. I don't need that in 2 weeks' time, 1 month's time, in a year's time, this is going to happen. What I'm interested in, how do I feel right now?
Yeah,
And if
because
I'm ex-
that changes what you're going to experience in the future.
that's it will affect, won't it? It will affect other generations or whatever seedlings it will come into the play. But the fact that you are in the present moment, in that wow, ooh, how, and I'm really, really excited to be right now. That's what's lifting everything up. So I thank you so much, brother, for your beautiful presence. I mean, I don't know if you want to slowly but surely wrap things up, and then if you want to say something to the listeners for maybe another future conversation, we can put out there. But we've got time to throw some ideas. But I'm really
We,
excited about
we,
the future.
we should actually come to a closure now, because we've been going for about 1.5 hours,
Correct.
and,
Yes.
and people are not going to watch 1.5 hours. So
Yes. So it's been a pleasure, brother. I'll give you the last couple of minutes or seconds for you to wrap it up, and I would like to thank you again for your beautiful contribution as ever. Um,
thank you. I think it's a matter of people being confident enough in their own power to step into to create their future by what they do in the present, and be assured that the universe will create the future that is hoped for in the present. And that's what Hebrews chapter 11 says. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. It's what you do with the present. If you live your life with hope, with confidence, with understanding your value as a part of the whole, and you give that value to the world as a gift and to each other, then nothing can separate us. Nothing could stand in our way. And I can tell you with confidence that nothing is going to change what's coming. Because it's
thank you.
not just, there's a whole universe of beings out there that I know some of them who are here working with us at this time. But like I say, they're expecting that symbiotic raising of our frequencies so that they can help us more and give, participate more. And they're all around, everywhere. Sometimes I see them in the sky. They're in my consciousness constantly. I can feel their presence. So yeah, we're not alone in this, and nothing's going to stop what's coming, because the universe, there's so many universal beings out there that are willing this to happen. And it just takes for mankind to will itself into that same state of consciousness.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much for your presence, and we I'm sure we'll reach out in the very near future. But until then, much love, and see you soon.
Bioactivator would like to thank you for your kind support and donations. Through Barrett Tunian's guardianship of this platform, his activation of truth harmonizes, neutralizes, and unblocks the meridians that connect, balance, and purify all that comes in contact. Do no harm is the key that fully opens the heart's voice to be in the union of the I Am presence, and will represent every living organism on the planet whose voice would otherwise not be heard. Remember, the truth will set you free. Do no harm, cause no loss, and do not impose upon the freedom of others. Love, light, and